spend more money. Okay, that's the topic of this video. To spend more money, and I'm not talking about your personal money and just stupid things. I am talking about purely in a risk basis and just pretty much taking a lot of risk. In the last 2 weeks, I have probably spent at least 20 grand in the business, and it's a very weird feeling for me. That's also why I want to share this, because I'm really entering uncharted waters and uncharted territory, and I thought I wanted to make this quick video and really explain why you should be taking risk. And yeah, like that's how you're going to really scale your business. You have to take a lot of risk. In the 20 grand that I've spent, it's really a fees of recruiters. So I've never really taken up this fee of going and just out of my way paying a recruiter just to go and find me a level talent. I haven't done that before. There are many more cheaper options, but I haven't spent thousands of dollars in doing that before. But now I am, because I realize the importance of A players and A level team. And you really understand this when you make mistakes, and then you sort of learn and you adapt. And then the true cost really is spending a lot of months and time in doing something and then only realizing that it doesn't work. And I want to quickly touch on this point, because it's also about what I recently made a previous video. But it's really like, you know imagine you do everything right and then you still fail and you don't get what you want. Imagine that you do every single thing that you were told to do and you were instructed to do, that you thought was the right thing to do, and then you still end up failing. And as J. Cole once said, such is life. Take a chance, roll the dice. And that's really the lesson, because that's also how life is. And school, the way you're taught to really do everything right, and then you will be rewarded and you will come out successful. But that's not really life. Life is actually a lot different. Life is literally going to hit you at your bones after you literally do everything right, and then you're going to wonder, how the hell did I not do it? And that's the importance that I'm trying to get at, which is you need to fail. You sort of need to fail, because if you actually look at failure as a whole, it's not really failure. It's just you finally understanding, these are the mistakes, these are the learnings that I've had. Oh, okay. In fact, without failure, you cannot even actually identify what things you're doing wrong, or what are the actual bottlenecks or the chinks in the armor. So you actually need it. You actually need it. So the way you really operate in life, and the way you can really actually make this whole idea of, imagine you do everything right and everything fails and it doesn't go your way, that's actually a good thing, right? It's a good thing, because when things don't go in your way, that's when you actually even just realize what it is that I haven't been doing properly. You're gonna start experiencing all these things that you see. Oh, I thought I was doing everything right, I thought I'm trying my best, and then oops, there's so many now just cracks in the business, right? There's so many cracks over there, and it doesn't even come to light until you actually fail, right? So that's why you have to sort of fail, and it's actually a good thing that life is like that. So you want to reframe that perspective. You want to reframe the way of how you approach these things and when these things happen to you. And the tricky part here is that you are pretty much conditioned since the start of school to literally think, yes, if I do everything right, I am going to get rewarded for this. So not just school, it's literally your parents, everybody around you telling you, yes, go work hard, go do this, go do that, only for you to then fail. Because those guys telling you that, that's how you have been conditioned or programmed to think, yes, if I do this, I'm going to succeed. And the tricky part then is, when you don't succeed, you're not going to be able to look at it in the way I just described it. You're not going to be able to look at it in the way, well, I needed to fail, because now I know what is wrong. And that's how you improve. So with the business, I've realized that the things that were wrong is just not hiring properly, not actually understanding how each function plays with each other department and each other role. Because I initially thought, this goes back to a lot of business related stuff, and why I say, you're not just going to get lucky with business, because it's so complex. You have to do so many things, and that's when you realize that you truly have to work insanely hard, and people don't just get lucky. People go and they go to college and like, yeah, I'm gonna go and get some experience after that, and then that's why I'm gonna start my own business. And I look at that, and I'm literally trying to tell you, like, how can you think that that gives you more experience than simply doing the actual job? How do you think that is the actual right path? Okay, you're just trying to cope. You are just literally trying to cope because you know that you are not ready for it. But here's the idea: you shouldn't be ready for it. You will never actually be ready for it, because the more you try to enter uncharted territories, the more you're going to realize that there's more to the game and that there's more complexity. Okay, the real answer here is figuring out that complexity, because with that comes a lot of chaos. So back to my point about a recent business failure, understanding each function. In the start, I thought that okay, each role is going to be just simply they have to do this whole thing, and it's sort of like the start to the end is really like, okay, that is what I can visually see in my head, the start to the end. So I'm just going to task and KPI them with that. But that's not how it works, because when they're doing the first to the end, it's too much for them. It's really too much for them. And then you don't even have a proper organization. You don't have an organization that is really risk free, because let's say that person leaves, the entire thing gets disrupted. So what you would rather want is something more agile, right? Because let's say they are doing one part of that function and they leave, at least you can replace them while the other functions are there to support the new person that comes in, right? That's one example. And that's also how true businesses operate, and that's also why margins usually are much much more thinner. So it goes back to my point of more risk, because when I take more risk, my margins are going to reduce, yes, but in fact the business isn't as risky anymore, because now there's more foundation, now there's more structure. Now if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, I can still operate well. Okay, and now really look at me understanding this after doing 1.5 to 2 years of business, understanding that there's so many functions, there's so many people that you need to get involved, there's so many people that all have to really play together in order to get it all right, so that everybody can each hit their KPIs, right? Because like I just mentioned, if this function is like this, right? And this person starts with their KPIs, but then the layer under that, they cannot do it properly, then this layer is going to get affected. So it's sort of like you move as an entire organization, and if one function suffers, so does the rest, which is why you have to keep it all up. And now I'm thinking, yeah, and I'm saying like, oh, this is what I've realized in 1.5 to 2 years of business. And then there's people that say, yeah, I'm going to go and get a job and then I'll have the experience and I'll suddenly know how to do my own business. How does that work? How do you actually do that? Stop coping. Okay, you are just literally coping because you don't know how to run a business and you're scared of that. Okay, you're scared of attacking that head on. So going back to my point, that is why you should be taking a lot of risk, and that's also how you become a good leader. Okay, because amidst all that chaos, amidst the chaos of knowing that each role and each function has its own play, and you as the leader are going to be responsible for all of those functions, and even if one of them suffers, the entire team suffers, and you're also dealing with people at the same time, and there's going to be a lot of morale involved. If one person suffers, the entire team cannot do what they want to do, and then they're going to sit there and think, oh shit, but I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing, why am I not succeeding? Right? So you see how I just got back to the first point that I initially made. So that's you as the leader, and that is why you have so much complexity to solve, you have so much chaos to handle, and that is also why you get paid the most. Okay, and that being said, being a leader is truly the hardest thing, because you're navigating not only your uncertainty, you're not only just navigating the I'm doing everything right and still not seeing the results, you are navigating that for your entire team as well. And you are almost responsible for them. Big goal for me is just simply developing my players, my team, because they're my people. Of course, I would want to do that, right? So, in order to be able to do that, you have to sort of take on the responsibility of all of them. And let's say things go south, it's really on you, and it can cause huge emotional toll. You're gonna look at the risk that you took and you're just gonna be like, what the hell? Like, I'm taking all this risk, I'm actually getting more unprofitable, and it sounds insane, right? Like, I'm spending so much more money to make lesser money in the short term, though. In the short term, right? It's gonna take a few months for the people to adjust, but then once they do come in, you start actually seeing the compounded returns, and that's how you truly scale, right? So you do want to take risk, and when you take that risk, you're gonna understand that yes, like, I'm gonna do everything right and I'm still gonna fail. But then again, you want to put in the variable of time, right? Because when you have time in your side, what is failure really like? What is failure? Does failure even exist? Right? You're gonna be unprofitable for those first few months, but then eventually you're gonna be even more profitable, right? So sort of like, yeah, I'm failing, but then I'm succeeding as well. And then as you start succeeding, you're again going to go into more uncharted territory. So you're going to want to take more risk. And then when you take more risk, you're going to realize, oh shit, there's so many things I'm doing wrong. Am I failing? I'm doing everything right, but I'm still not succeeding. What the hell is happening here? And then you're again going to fail and you're going to be in that entire cycle all over again. And that's life. Okay, that's life. And I wanted to make this video to sort of explain this concept and really bring it to light to you guys, because they don't teach this, right? They don't teach this. In fact, you've been conditioned to completely live and have the idea of success in a complete opposite manner, right? So you don't take any risk, and then you don't know how to deal with that risk, because that's the reality, dealing with it. And then life as well, because it's not even just business, okay? When you just do things in general, you're going to be doing things right, and you're still not going to see any success. And that begs the question, how do I actually deal with that? How do you emotionally keep yourself there? Because you're going to imagine the kind of demotivation you can get if you just don't understand this simple concept, right? Imagine the kind of emotional toll it would have. Imagine the ripple effect it would have if you just feel that, you feel so demotivated, and then you just give up, and then pretty much everything else suffers. And then imagine that 10x with people, your own people, your team. Okay, so take a lot of risk, and then also understand when you do take risk, what I've just told you, keep that in mind. Okay, I'll see you guys in the next one.